You know all that career advice you hear? The stuff about grit, specialization, picking one thing and just sticking with it? Well, what if that advice is just completely wrong for you? What if your biggest problem isn't a lack of focus, but actually having way too much of it? I mean, does this sound familiar? You look at your life and you see like a dozen different paths, and every single one feels like a real part of who you are. The problem isn't doing the work, it's that you're paralyzed by all the choices. If you're nodding along right now, you are definitely not alone. And there's a name for this whole experience. It's called the scanner's dilemma. This quote just nails that feeling, doesn't it? It's not about a lack of ambition at all. It's having so much ambition that it's spread out super wide. And picking just one path feels like you're betraying all the other versions of yourself. And, society tends to really misunderstand this. Okay, so let's dive right into what we're calling the scanner's dilemma. We're going to really unpack that unique anxiety that comes from having too many passions and figure out why it feels like such a roadblock in a world that's always pushing for specialization. Society actually has a word for people like us, dilettante. And let's be honest, it is not usually meant as a compliment. That label can create this immense anxiety, making you feel like your greatest strength, your endless curiosity, is actually your biggest career liability. Today, we are going to completely tear that idea apart. To do that, we first have to get our heads around the fact that the world itself has changed. See, the problem isn't you. It's that the old career playbook was written for a world that, frankly, doesn't really exist anymore. For a long time, the world was what you'd call a kind learning environment. Think of a golfer, right? The rules are clear, the feedback is instant, you hit the ball, you see where it goes, and just doing it over and over again leads to mastery. That's the world that celebrated the specialist. But today, we live in a wicked learning environment. Now, think of a firefighter. Every single fire is new, the rules are constantly changing, and that deep specialized knowledge might not even apply. In this world, a totally different kind of person thrives. So if the world has changed, how in the world are we supposed to navigate it? We need a new map. To build a career that actually fits your brain, you've got to stop thinking in job titles and start thinking in shapes. This is a really powerful way to understand who you are professionally. First up, you've got the I-shaped person. This is your classic specialist, the expert with that single deep pillar of knowledge. We absolutely need these people, don't get me wrong. The problem is when we think this is the only way to be successful. Now, here's the trap that so many of us fall into, the dash-shaped person. This is the classic dabbler, right? You know a little bit about everything, but there's no real foundation. This lack of depth, that's what creates that constant nagging anxiety, that feeling like you don't have any solid ground to stand on. But there is another shape, and this is the game changer. It's the M-shaped professional, also known as the polymath. This model doesn't make you choose just one thing. Instead, it turns your multiple deep interests from a liability into your single greatest strength. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, imagine one pillar of your MSN is data science. You go deep there. But your second pillar is storytelling, and you go deep there too. And that horizontal bar connecting them, that's all your other interests: psychology, history, design. All of a sudden, you're not a distracted data scientist. No way. You are that rare person who can take complex data and weave it into a story that a CEO can actually understand and act on. That combination is incredibly valuable. The superpower that lets the M-shaped polymath do this actually has a name. It's the secret sauce that makes their combination of skills so much more than just the sum of its parts. It's called far transfer. So a specialist uses what's called near transfer. They apply a skill to a really similar problem. But a polymath, they use far transfer. They see the underlying pattern or the structure in one field and then apply it to a completely different one. For instance, someone who really understands the branching structure of a tree's root system might suddenly see a better way to organize a computer database. Or a musician who gets harmony could find a more elegant way to structure their software code. See, all those seemingly random interests you've picked up over the years become this library of metaphors just waiting to give you breakthrough insights. Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do you actually build this M-shaped life? It's not about just hoping your interests magically connect one day. It takes a real, deliberate strategy. And that strategy has three core parts. First, we have serial mastery. Second, you need to find a strategic job. And third, you have to build an external system. Let's break each of those down. First up, serial mastery. Here's the thing. You can't build all the pillars of your M at the same time. That just leads you right back to being that shallow dash shape. You have to pick one pillar and commit to it for a season. say for 6 to 18 months. The secret is to lower the stakes. You're not choosing this for life. Once you feel like you've mastered the core 80% and your curiosity is kind of satisfied for now, you move on. This isn't quitting. It's strategic quitting. Think of it as a graduation. Second, you need a strategic job. I mean, look at Einstein. He worked as a patent clerk. It was a stable, low-drain job that gave his mind the platform to wander the entire universe. Your day job is a strategic asset. A high-passion, high-stress job might sound exciting, but if it eats up 110% of your mental energy, it leaves zero room for the exploration that your brain craves. And finally, you need an external system. A scanner's brain is like a high-output idea factory, but your working memory is a tiny, tiny workbench. Trying to hold all those ideas in your head at once just leads to total overwhelm. Great thinkers like Nicholas Luhmann use systems like a Zettelkasten, basically a slipbox for ideas. For us, it could be an app like Notion or Obsidian. The goal is to capture the dots from all your fleeting obsessions so that you can connect them later on. So, let's bring this all home. You are not a dilettante who lacks grit. You are a potential polymath whose brain is literally designed to be a bridge between different worlds. This path won't always be easy, but having a map for your mind can bring this amazing sense of calm, and it replaces all that self-blame with a quiet confidence. So the question to leave you with is not what one thing should I be, but what amazing connections am I uniquely positioned to make?